right, so let's unpack this crypto market, huh? Looks like we're diving deep into Bitcoin and altcoins today.
Yeah,
Trying to figure out what's driving these prices up and down and all around.
absolutely.
Got some interesting sources to work with. The Economic Times, TradingView News, even got a piece on SHIB burn rates from you today.
Yeah, those are always interesting. A lot of action in the SHIB world.
Lots to unpack.
Always.
So where do we even begin with all this?
Well, I think the most striking thing is this contrast we're seeing right now.
Okay, lay on me.
Bitcoin taking a bit of a dip.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Down more than 1%. As of today, December 24th, 2024.
That's right. Trading below $95,000.
Oof, that's a pretty significant drop.
Is a 13% correction from its all-time high.
Which was, remind me.
$108,268.45.
Wow, that's a hefty chunk of change to lose.
Not small potatoes at all.
So is this the end of the post-election rally, or is it just kind of taking a breather?
Well, the Economic Times seems to think it's a period of consolidation, after that initial surge. But there's also another factor at play here.
Oh.
The Federal Reserve.
Oh, the Fed. Right.
Their recent commentary hinting at maybe shallower rate cuts in 2025.
And the markets are not happy about that, huh?
They're not thrilled.
I swear, every time the Fed even whispers something, every market in the world just freaks out.
It's a good reminder that crypto doesn't live in a vacuum.
Right.
It's connected to the bigger picture.
So TradingView News, they were talking about this too, right?
They were.
They're saying that these less than expected rate cuts, it spooked investors.
It did. Contributed to the drops in Bitcoin and altcoins.
So less aggressive rate cuts basically means less money flowing around. Makes investors a little nervous, huh?
Makes them more cautious, especially with riskier assets like crypto.
Makes sense. But here's the weird thing. Bitcoin's down, but a lot of altcoins are actually gaining ground. Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Dogecoin, they're all up. Some by as much as 7%.
It's like a tug of war.
Yeah, that's exactly what that Pi42 analyst in the Economic Times called it. A tug of war between the bulls and the bears.
Exactly. Some people are running scared, others are seeing an opportunity.
A buying opportunity. Interesting.
Like MicroStrategy.
Oh, yeah?
Big Bitcoin player. They actually bought a ton more Bitcoin during this downturn.
Really? How much are we talking?
5,262 Bitcoin.
You're kidding me.
According to the Economic Times.
Well, that's a pretty bold move, right?
It is.
Buying during a dip makes me think MicroStrategy is playing a different game than the average investor.
It must have a lot of confidence in Bitcoin's long-term prospects to make a move like that.
Now, speaking of specific coins, TradingView News was highlighting XRP's performance.
Yes, XRP is an interesting one.
What's the story there?
Well, it's down about 20% from its recent high.
Okay.
But there's a ton of activity. The 24-hour trading volume is huge. People are still buying and selling like crazy.
So even with the dip, it's still hot. Should people be buying now or wait and see?
That's a good question.
What do you think?
Well, TradingView News mentioned this flag pattern,
Okay.
which often means we could see a breakout.
Interesting.
They also highlighted some key support levels to watch. 2.117, $2, $1.89, and the 50 EMA at $1.82.
Those support levels are pretty critical, right? If they don't hold, could see things going south.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
So what would you say to someone thinking about buying XRP right now, given this potential for a downturn?
I'd say it depends on their risk tolerance. Comfortable with volatility, this could be a good entry point.
Okay.
But if you're risk averse, might be best to wait, see if those support levels hold up.
That makes sense.
Now, of course, not everyone's bearish on XRP.
Oh, right. There's always those super optimistic folks.
Right. Like this guy, Ollie, on Twitter.
What's he say?
Thinks XRP is undervalued right now, especially since it broke out of that multi-year triangle pattern.
The eternal optimists. Gotta love them. Always good to have different perspectives, though, right?
Absolutely.
So what's the price prediction for XRP? What are people saying?
For December 2024, the predictions are pretty modest, ranging from a minimum of $1.91 to a maximum of $2.56.
So no Lambos this month?
Probably not. Average prediction is $2.24.
Okay, so not a huge jump. But what about long term?
That's where it gets a little more exciting.
Yep.
2025, things are looking a bit more optimistic. Some predictions have XRP reaching $5, even higher.
Now, that would be a nice return. Of course, crypto predictions are just that, predictions.
Right.
Anything could happen.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of wild price swings, let's talk about SHIB.
Ah, yes. SHIB.
All those burn rates. The You Today article was pretty wild.
It's a fascinating concept, burning tokens.
It is. Explain it for our listeners who might not be familiar with the whole burning thing.
Sure. It's intentionally reducing a cryptocurrency's supply. Get rid of some tokens. The idea being that fewer tokens in circulation should theoretically drive the price up.
Like a digital version of supply and demand?
Exactly.
So what was You Today reporting?
A massive surge in the SI burn rate on December 23rd.
Oh, wow. How much of a surge?
936.52% increase.
No way. Nearly 1,000%. That's insane. So millions of SHIB gone, just like that.
Sent to dead wallets, gone forever.
But then I noticed the weekly figures are negative.
Yeah, that's where things get tricky.
Explain that.
A negative weekly burn means that overall, more ash is being created than burned.
Oh, I see. Despite the big daily burns.
Exactly. Suggests the total supply of SHIB is still going up.
So even with all that burning, the price might not be going up as much as people would expect.
That's the thing. You got to look at the overall supply growth before jumping on the SHIB bandwagon.
Makes sense. So what's the price doing right now?
Let's see. It's currently trading at 0.000000003.
Okay.
With a 24-hour performance of over 8%.
So it's up, but how much of that is due to the burns? Who knows?
Tough to say, given the increasing supply. Seems like there's a disconnect between the burn activity and the price action.
Definitely something to keep in mind. Now, before I move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The Fed and their impact on the market. It seems like their moves are causing some uncertainty.
They are. Their policies have a ripple effect throughout the entire financial system.
Even crypto.
Especially crypto, because it's still relatively new, so it's very sensitive to these big economic shifts.
So if the Fed is being cautious, investors are less likely to jump into something as risky as crypto, huh?
That's a reasonable conclusion to draw. But there's another thing to consider.
Okay.
The Fed's actions are often a reaction to something, broader economic trends.
So if they're hinting at slower rate cuts, it could be because they're seeing signs of a weakening economy.
Exactly. So their moves might actually reflect these underlying conditions that could impact crypto regardless of their direct policies.
It's all connected.
It is a complex interplay of factors. That's why it's so important to stay informed. Not just about crypto, but about the whole macroeconomic landscape.
Okay, so keep an eye on the Fed, but also those economic wins.
Absolutely.
Now, before we run out of time, let's talk about that tokenization marketplace.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. What is that all about?
That's Quibetics, this platform that's aiming to make asset ownership more democratic.
How so?
Through tokenization. They take real-world assets like real estate, commodities, even intellectual property, and convert them into digital tokens that can be traded on their marketplace.
So instead of buying, say, a whole building, you could buy a tiny piece of it represented by a token.
Exactly. Like owning shares of a company, but instead of a company, you own part of an asset.
Interesting concept. What kind of assets are on this Quibetics marketplace?
They have a pretty diverse range: real estate, commodities, equity, and intellectual property.
Wow. That is diverse. So if someone wants to get involved, how do they do that?
They're in their pre-sale phase right now, phase 14, offering TIPCS tokens at 0.037 minutes.
Okay.
Price increases every week, with a final 20% jump in the last stage.
So there's a benefit to getting in early. Has this pre-sale generated much interest?
It seems so. They've raised over $7.5 million so far.
Wow.
More than 11,500 holders, 372 million tokens sold.
Those are impressive numbers. Tokenization is clearly gaining traction. We'll have to do a whole separate deep dive on Quibetics sometime.
It's a fascinating topic.
It is. But for now, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Bitcoin's dip, the surprising strength of altcoins, the Fed's influence, XRP's wild ride, those crazy SI burns, and even a glimpse into Quibetics.
It's remarkable how much is happening in the crypto world right now.
Always something new, right?
Always.
Well, we'll be back soon for part 2 of our deep dive. We'll explore even more fascinating developments in this ever-evolving space.
Sounds good. Stay tuned.
I'll be here. Welcome back.
Back for more crypto craziness.
We covered a lot of ground in part 1.
We did, didn't we? Bitcoin, altcoins, the Fed.
Oh, and those SI burns.
Those were something else.
Still trying to wrap my head around those.
Yeah, the disconnect between the burn activity and the price.
Makes you think.
It does.
But we still have more to unpack.
We do.
You mentioned this unique tokenization marketplace.
Quibetics.
Right, Quibetics.
They're all about democratizing asset ownership.
Through tokenization, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so break that down for me.
Basically, They're bridging the gap between traditional assets and the crypto world.
Okay.
They're taking things like real estate, commodities.
Even intellectual property, right?
You got it.
And they're turning them into tokens.
Tokenizing them.
So people can invest in things that were previously out of reach.
Exactly.
It's like they're breaking down these big, expensive assets
Into smaller, more manageable pieces.
that anyone can own.
Fractional ownership powered by blockchain technology.
Pretty cool concept.
It is, and it's gaining traction.
Yeah, you mentioned they raised a lot of money in their pre-sale.
Really?
And the number of holders is growing.
Every day.
So for someone who's new to this whole tokenization thing, what's the appeal? Why would I want to invest in a tokenized asset?
Well, for one thing, it opens up access to opportunities that were previously exclusive.
Like,
Think high-end real estate, rare art, things like that.
so stuff that I couldn't normally afford to invest in.
Exactly.
I could own a piece of it through a token.
A tiny fraction, but still.
Still pretty cool.
It is.
But what about the practical side of things?
Like managing these tokens.
Yeah, and trading them.
That's where the Quebetics marketplace comes in.
They handle all that.
They provide a platform for buying, selling, trading.
All on the blockchain, I assume.
Secure, transparent, efficient.
So it's kind of like a stock exchange?
But for tokenized assets instead of company shares.
I like it.
It's growing space.
It is.
A lot of potential there.
So what should we be watching for in the future?
Well, regulation is a big one.
Always is with crypto.
As tokenization becomes more mainstream, governments will want to get involved.
Makes sense.
They'll want to create some rules, provide oversight.
Could have a big impact on how these platforms operate.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Else?
I'm also interested to see how the tokenization models evolve.
How so?
Right now, Quebetics is focused on a few specific asset classes.
But they could expand into other things.
Oh, absolutely.
Like what?
Think carbon credits, renewable energy projects, even virtual real estate in the metaverse.
The metaverse.
It's coming.
It's a whole new world.
It is.
So many possibilities.
The potential is huge.
I'm definitely intrigued by this whole tokenization thing.
It's a game changer.
It could revolutionize how we think about asset ownership.
And investing.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Bitcoin and altcoins.
The divergence in their performance.
Bitcoin's down, but a lot of altcoins are holding strong.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Why do you think that is?
A few possible explanations.
Okay.
Some investors might be seeing altcoins as a hedge against Bitcoin's volatility.
So they're basically diversifying their crypto portfolio.
Spreading the risk.
Smart move.
Another possibility is that certain altcoins are benefiting from developments within their ecosystems.
Like partnerships, upgrades, things like that.
Exactly. Things that drive up the price independently of Bitcoin.
It's a reminder that each coin has its own story.
Its own set of factors that influence its price.
So we got to look beyond the overall market trends.
And understand the fundamentals of each coin.
Good advice.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah,
I want to emphasize something.
I'm listening.
We've talked a lot about the market, the trends, the technology,
And numbers.
but ultimately, crypto is all about people.
The human element.
It's driven by communities, developers, entrepreneurs.
Everyday people who believe in this technology.
It's a global movement.
It really is.
It transcends borders and financial systems.
It's about creating a new paradigm.
A new way of doing things.
And that's exciting.
It is.
So while charts and technical analysis are important,
They are.
we can't forget about the human element.
It's the driving force behind crypto.
Well said.
We're witnessing a transformation,
We are.
and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
Okay, so let's take a short break and come back for the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll explore some final takeaways and leave you with some food for thought.
I like it.
Stay tuned.
And we're back. Final part of our crypto deep dive. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
It has lots to process.
We've covered Bitcoin's dip, the altcoin rally, even tokenization.
The Fed, SHE burns. So much to think about.
So much. Let's take a step back now. What does all this mean for our listeners?
Well, I think the key takeaway is stay informed.
This market moves so fast.
It does. What's true today might be outdated tomorrow. You got to stay on top of things.
So no, I just passively watching the charts?
No, got to be actively engaged. Do your own research. Keep learning.
Don't just read the headlines. Right. Dig deeper. Understand the fundamentals. Form your own opinions.
Solid advice. Now, let's talk about opportunities. We've seen altcoins doing well. We talked about tokenization. Where do you see the biggest potential for growth in the coming year?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
If I had a crystal ball.
We'd all be rich.
Exactly. But based on what we've seen, there are a few areas I'm excited about.
Okay, I'm all ears.
DeFi. For one, decentralized finance.
That's a hot topic.
It is. So much innovation happening there. Lending, borrowing, trading, all on the blockchain.
Cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with DeFi.
Lots of potential there. What else?
Crypto and gaming.
Oh yeah, play-to-earn games. I've heard about those.
They're gaining popularity. Imagine earning crypto just by playing video games.
That sounds dangerous for my productivity.
It's a game changer. And as the metaverse develops, I think we'll see even more integration of crypto in these virtual worlds.
It's like a whole new digital economy emerging.
It could be. And of course, tokenization.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
It has the potential to disrupt traditional asset classes. Real estate, art, collectibles, making them more accessible, more liquid.
Platforms like Quebetics.
Exactly. They're at the forefront of this trend.
Something for our listeners to check out. Now, we can't forget about regulation.
Always a big factor.
Governments are still trying to figure out crypto.
They are. And their decisions will have a huge impact on the industry.
It's a bit of a wild west out there right now.
It is, which is part of the excitement.
So much potential, but also risks.
Right. Which brings me to my final thought. With all these trends, opportunities, challenges, what's the most important thing to remember when navigating the crypto world?
I'm all ears.
Be curious, be skeptical, be responsible.
I like that. Break it down for me.
Curiosity will drive you to learn, to explore. Skepticism will help you avoid scams, make smart decisions. And responsibility will ensure you're investing wisely, managing your risk.
Words to live by. In crypto and in life, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us. It's been a fascinating conversation.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk crypto.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this crypto journey. Stay curious, stay skeptical, stay responsible, and we'll see you next time.